Hey, everybody, it's Monday, January 31st, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia, Nonprofit Conversations. I'm one of your hosts, Cecilia Sepp. I'm the principal and founder of Retooling Consulting. My co-host and friend, Agnes Amos Coleman, can't be with us today. So on behalf of Agnes, I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global audience. Thanks for joining us this week. And we're really excited because our regular guest, Fern Carbonell, who is a midlife wellness coach, is here with us today. And she's going to share some insights on the issue of burnout. Welcome, Fern. Would you like to say hello and tell us a little about yourself?
Hello, I'm Fern Carbonell. I am a wellness coach, and my wellness business is called Love Nurture Bloom. And you could connect with me on Instagram at Love Nurture Bloom. I help women just to take care of themselves, especially through midlife and all the changes that are happening. And that is my passion.
That is great. And being somebody who is part of some of the activities at Love Nurture Bloom, I can highly recommend it. One of the things that Love Nurture Bloom promotes is self-care, which is a very important thing for all of us. And that leads us to today's topic of burnout. So there's actually two parts to burnout, right, Fern? You have to identify it, and then there are some things you can do to alleviate it. So could you explain to our audience what burnout is?
Yeah, so actually the term burnout was coined in the 1970s by an American psychologist whose name was Herbert Freudenberger. And burnout occurs when an individual experiences too much stress for a prolonged period of time. And I would add to this description that stress builds on itself. Mm-hmm. And if it's not released from the body, then it could just create other health issues. And burnout has become so common in recent years that it's actually a legitimate medical disorder. And it even has its own like medical code, for insurance. So it's become very common, especially during the pandemic when we've all just been trapped in our homes, kind of, and it's continued. So we're not seeing an end to it. So just all of the stress that we're experiencing is causing kind of like its own pandemic, right?
Right. Oh gosh, yeah. A burnout pandemic, that's all we need on top of everything else. Oh my gosh. But I think some of this too, and this is just my personal opinion, I think some of this burnout comes from the fact that we have created an expectation in society that if you're not constantly working and constantly achieving and constantly growing, doing bigger, earning more money, et cetera, that there's something wrong with you. And I don't think that we have a lot of balance. And again, that's just my opinion. But do you think that these societal attitudes are contributing to the increase in burnout?
Yes, because I experienced my own burnout last year, and there were signs in the springtime, but I kept pushing myself. Like you push through the discomfort is what you hear a lot, from social media or wherever. It's kind of common to hear that. So that's what I was doing. Even as a wellness coach, I was still just pushing myself beyond my own mental limits. And so we have to be careful about that, and not to push through. Instead of pushing through, just pause. So I think earlier you asked the difference between a stressor and stress. And so a stressor is the person, place, or situation causing the stress. And stress is the physical response to the stressor, or even a combination of stressors. We all have experienced stress, so many stressors throughout the day. So it could be a combination of that. And, some signs to look for when you're feeling burned out is just unexplained sadness, and then just feeling constantly fatigued and irritable. And then you just want to just isolate yourself from other people, your energy is low, and even your enthusiasm is diminished. So when you start seeing signs of, any of those signs, just pause and take a look at maybe the stressors that are happening in your life.
And that's a really good point. And when we were having that conversation prepping for this episode, I thought that was really good differentiation, because a lot of us talk about stress and we all have our own definition of stress because we're all living our own lives. As philosophers say, it's a solipsistic universe. So that means we're all the center of our own universe, like it or not. And that's not a self-absorbed thing. That's just the way it is, because we can only see the world from where we're standing. But I love that you're saying there is a difference between what's causing you the stress and the stress itself. So are there some examples of how we can control a stressor in our life?
Yeah, so managing the stressor in your life. So for example, a lot of us experience stress at work, just all of the demands and, a stressor could be just an over demanding boss who never has anything kind to say. And so your stomach is in knots and your heart is racing, your blood pressure is increased. So all of those things are happening because you see your boss. So maybe one thing you could do is perhaps talk to your boss about any issues that you're having with work or with the demands, or maybe even go to HR and see if there's anything that they can help you with. Or you can try to also resolve it by maybe looking for another job.
Right.
So you have control over these stressors. So just look for those signs, just identify it, and then you can start working through the stress.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a good thing to, and hey, folks, we all know we have stress with certain members of our family, right? So maybe, maybe we, well, I just always laugh because almost every Thanksgiving movie is about how horrible it is to be around your family. And so I've quit watching those because my attitude is, well, if you don't like being around your family that much, why go be around them? Just don't be around them. But you mentioned earlier about identifying our own reactions to stress and what's giving us stress. And that we're getting, and not just stress, I'm sorry, the issue of burnout, the burnout thing that stress can cause. So I realized last year, I had a pretty full year last year in 2021 with a lot of different things going on. And I realized by the end of the year, as I was limping toward my 2-week holiday break, that I couldn't finish sentences. It was like there was a gap in my thought process. So is that a sign of burnout that you see in other people sometimes?
Yes, that is a definite sign of burnout. Yes. And also, if you're feeling burned out, you probably are burned out, and it's time to hit that pause button and just be sure you're taking care of yourself. And, and there are basic things that you can do to just care for yourself. But the one thing is to make sure you're resting and make sure you're releasing that stress in some physical way, through exercise and yoga. I mean, those are really good ways to just kind of relieve your body of that energy, of that stress, so it doesn't keep building up on itself. But really, rest is just the most important thing. And then even removing yourself from that stressor to just lower the stress in your body.
And I just, you mentioned rest, and I want to come back to that for a minute or two. There's also kind of this attitude of like staying up all night, only getting 4 hours sleep, 3 hours sleep, 2 hours sleep, whatever. Oh, I'm doing all these things all the time. That's obviously not healthy. So what are some of the side effects of not resting and getting enough sleep?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, you'll have brain fog, just like what you were probably experiencing. You're just always going to be, you're not going to be able to focus. I mean, there's so many things your body is just going to break down. I got to a point where I was just always crying, and for no reason, just because I was so tired and I wasn't giving myself that rest. So yes, rest is just so important, because when you have a restful sleep, your body is regenerating, new cells, and stomach gets, your gut gets to rest. I mean, just all kinds of, your body is in rest mode. It's not just you sleeping, it's your entire body.
Right.
All of your bodily functions resting. And you definitely need that to get better.
And I think, and that's something I have learned the hard way, is making sure I do get enough rest, because there's no point in killing yourself. And when I say that, it's, we push and push and push and push, and then we wonder why we burn out. And it's like, if there's nothing left for you at the end of the day, you can't help other people either. Exactly. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. So as we move toward, already, we only have a few minutes left of this conversation, believe it or not. So Fern, you've told us what stress is. You've told us what stressors are and how they're different, and how if you're not managing your stress and taking care of yourself, that's going to lead to burnout. So if you are burned out and you need to recover from it, what are some things people can do?
Ask for help, because we can't, especially as women, we think we can do everything on our own. But you really need to get some support, especially if you have children and you need a break from your family, get a friend, get your partner, your spouse to take care of the kids, so you can go somewhere and just have some quiet time, or just do something that you enjoy. So do something that you enjoy, get the support that you need. And, sometimes it could be more than burnout. You could be on your way to depression. So make sure you get the counseling that you need. So if you're feeling signs of depression, could be just feeling hopeless, and maybe just chronic fatigue with the hopelessness, and, maybe even thoughts of suicide. So that's a little more serious than burnout. So definitely get the support that you need, and just make sure you have your basic needs met, eat healthy, move your body, get exercise, do some breathing exercise, but do one thing, just one thing, and then build on that instead of trying to do everything, all of the self-care at once. So I would focus on sleep. I would get the support that you need, and move your body.
And then for my closing question, I'm going to ask, what are some ways people can retool their schedule, retool their lifestyle in a way, or maybe it's just changing their mindset to avoid getting burned out again?
Yeah, that would depend on the individual. Yeah, because it that could get a little more complex, and the more, we don't have enough time to really talk to get into that, because it is just so very individual. Everybody's got a different life. I mean, I'm a single woman, and then there are women with a lot of children in the home, to take care of. So
Right.
just making time for yourself, that's the most important thing.
And that's a good point. So, and we do all have to evaluate that on our own. Like, what's our schedule? How are we reacting to things? Are we asking for help when we need it? Which I know it's hard for a lot of us to do that, as you said. So that is a really great point. So Fern, for our closing thought today, what is it you would like our audience to take away on the issue of self-care, managing yourself so you don't burn out, and or what if you do burn out moving forward?
Yeah, so make a commitment to yourself to just check in with yourself every day, even throughout the day. Look for those physical signs of stress, and just make sure that you're doing some sort of activity to relieve that stress. Do yoga, move your body, share it with someone, talk to someone. So make a commitment to yourself.
So, well, thank you. That is wonderful advice, because we make so many commitments to others. So let's make sure we do it for us. So Fern, you've mentioned Love, Nurture, Bloom, your website. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you if they'd like to follow up?
Yeah, come to my website at lovenurturebloom.com. And I also have a lot of wellness tips on my Instagram at lovenurturebloom. And I also have a burnout recovery webinar coming up in February. So just check in with me to find out when registration opens.
Oh, that's great. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that, Fern. That's great. And thank you for joining us today and sharing all this great input on burnout. And what I'm coming away from this conversation is we are all individuals. And so we all have to kind of look at us first about how can we manage these things and so that we can be healthy and participate in our life and the lives of the people we care about. So thanks, Fern. And we have to go rogue for now. But do join us next week for another exciting episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia Nonprofit Conversations. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe to our playlist on YouTube, or you can subscribe to the audio version of this podcast on many audio services, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcast. If you're working on your CAE prep for the CAE exam, you can get some courses or study groups at our education arm, the 501c League, which you can learn more about at the 501cleague.net. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of myself and Fern, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Bye.
Bye.